distinguished colleagues, I remain Muhammad Adamalero, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, I rise to second this very important motion by my colleague, Senator Looms. Mr. President, the media is recently awash with a lot of stories about serious violations of human rights and the extrajudicial killing of innocent Nigerians. Some of them were arrested for no reason, and they are being kept in custody for quite a long time, and eventually they are summarily executed. Mr. President, recently the Inspector General of Police had to respond that the SARS will have to be reorganized. He even said that they will no longer be allowed to continue, patrolling the streets. They should be limited to investigation of criminals. This is the way it should be. What is currently going on now, Mr. President, is a violation of all conventions Nigeria has signed on the fundamental human rights, and even a violation of our constitution. So we should not allow this kind of thing to continue. Rather, I support the proposal that the Senate Committee on Human Rights and also on Judiciary should conduct thorough investigation. And I think they should jointly do it together with the Senate Committee on Police Affairs, so that they will come up with a report that we can work on. But suffice to say that we cannot afford extrajudicial killing in a constitutional democracy like we are operating today. It is a charade. It should be condemned, and nobody should be killed without a just cause. If you have to be killed, let it go through the judicial process. Let the judiciary determine that you have actually committed this offense, and it is done beyond reasonable doubt before anybody can be killed. I second this motion, and I commend my colleague for bringing it up. Thank you, Mr. President.
Both the mover of the motion and the two distinguished senators that have contributed on this motion. Mr. President, definitely the wanton killing of our youth as it is today is condemnable, and this chamber should condemn it with all force. And it's quite unfortunate that the events you hear on the social media today when it comes to the issue of the activity of the SARS is quite sad. And of course, the stories you hear is one in which the courts are not involved in terms of either warrant of arrest or whatever. And I have also followed the response by the Nigerian police force. Very clearly, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the highest authority of the Nigerian police are aware of the activities of SARS. And I think we have to hold them accountable. The truth is, SARS does not seem to have any rules of engagement. And I think we know very well in a civilized society, rules of engagement defines actions and inactions. And in this case, like the DSP said, you just see people dressed anyhow. The only difference between them and madmen and criminals is that they are holding an AK-47. You will not even see any element that they are police officers. So I think this is where the problem is. Unfortunately, again, some very wicked Nigerians, when they have issues with their friends, neighbors, or any other person, they also go in to go and recruit these SARS, pay them to come and harass their fellow citizens. And I think it is in the guise of some of these, altercations that you see what they will call accidental discharge. There is nothing like accidental discharge where you know you are carrying a rifle We may not have been in the force, but we know for sure that every gun has a safety, provision. And you are supposed to only cock it when you know that there is imminent danger to your life. So I think what we need to do in considering this issue, because I remember even in the 8th Senate, this issue was discussed extensively in this chamber. And I think it is time for us to now get our relevant committees to ensure that FSAS must have rules of engagement that every Nigerian is aware of, so that if anybody confronts you, you are well educated and well informed to know that this is an illegal operation or otherwise. Mr. President, until we do this, another day in this chamber, this subject will still be discussed. I hope and pray that we will do something about it, because the lives of Nigerians that are being killed, their dreams being shut out, is quite unfortunate, and it stands to be condemned. Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity.
Senator George Thompson Sekibo, JP.
Uses the power excessively, and those who give the power cannot control the power, cannot curtail the power, and cannot ask the man who is using the power excessively, call him to question. Nigeria is in problem. Extrajudicial killings everywhere. Boko Haram, they are killing everywhere. The battle has been on for about 10 years. We are not able to abate it. Herdsmen are doing their own. Bandits are doing their own. Armed robbers are doing their own. Assassins are doing their own. So wherever you go to, you are not sure it can be allowed till the next day. Now, these people are not government agents or agencies. They develop themselves, develop the capacity, and are fighting Nigeria as a nation. We are also battling back against them. Now, this special anti-robbery squad formation by the police, I think it was intended for a good thing. It's to stop robbery, mainly armed robbery, in the country. Maybe among other services or other functions. Today, has armed robbery been abated in our country? No. There are more robbery in the country than before SARS was established, was formed. So, this calls for a question. Are they really doing their work? We need to answer it by ourselves. When a government agent or agency, agents of government, are continuously taking away lives of people, when an agent of government is continuously abusing people's rights, and then they are set up by the government, those people that set them up, are they not hearing? Are they not seeing? Is it only the senators that are seeing this kind of thing? We are in a country. If you post something on the internet, every person will read. Are they not reading it? Why can't they call them to order? Mr. President, these SARS formation, these SARS members, they are agents of corruption. They stay on the road, extract money from innocent people, threaten them. If you don't part with some money, they take you to their offices and lock you up. They are not VIOs. They have their own defined function. But they will go ahead to say, where is your driving license? Where is your car particulars? That is not their function. They must face their own function. They must face their own function. Mr. President, before I thought SARS was merely formed to conduct election in Rivers State. When we cried aloud in the last election, how it was all over the internet space, when they were killing our people, shooting and arresting people, we were shouting, no one is talking. Now the madness, when you groom a monster for something else, and it doesn't have the function to perform again, it will turn back against you or against the nation. SARS has turned back against the nation. Mr. President, this is the right time for us to do something about it and curb their excesses. Either we completely scrap them off or redefine their functions and then get the IG to completely monitor what they are doing. So I completely agree with my sister that brought the motion and all our prayers. Mr. President, I so submit.
Distinguished colleagues, there are many.
They will continue to be unemployable. They will continue not to be part of the global world. Therefore, a situation where they will be harassed, molested, just because they are trying to acquire the skills and to live by the normal, today's global new normal. I think it's very disheartening, Mr. President. I think it's also very discouraging, because what it is that a normal youth will now, for the sake of being harassed, will decide not to acquire the skill. How would they even have the training? All trainings now are gearing towards ICT. How would they have those skills to even survive in a world of today? And so, Mr. President, on the part of the police, I think we have a gap as well. The gap is that the police cannot give what they don't have. If the police on the street doesn't have ICT knowledge and is not trained on the essentials of ICT, how will he combat the crime? How will he even know who to arrest and who not to arrest? And so it becomes a corrupt practice. And so what I suggest is that the police, maybe with the trust fund, should invest in having ICT.
Distinguished colleagues, please, those who have not put their masks, please, can we use our masks? Please. Go ahead.
I think police should invest in having these cybercrime training centers or schools. The reason why they must do that is to have a special squad whose responsibility is on cybercrime and cyber crime prevention. In that case, if a crime is being committed using ICT or a cyber crime is being committed, they would have had a special squad where you have trained personnel whose responsibility will be to ensure that they do it the way it ought to be done. But harassing and killing innocent kids on the streets, it's just very uncivilized and must be stopped. If we don't stop it, our progressing on ICT, indeed our economic progression will be very, very much retarded along the way. Mr. President, this is a very, very serious matter, and I want to really commend Senator Tinubu for this wonderful motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
In Nigeria, our own black people in uniform are also killing black people. Mr. President, I am fully aware of the achievement of the SARS in arresting notorious armed robbers in this country. Be it as it is, Mr. President, I am supporting Her Excellency Senator Oluremi Tinubu that the IG of police must come out with ways to reform SARS so that they can look like policemen, not look like armed robbers in their own dressing. I am calling, Mr. President, that SARS should be reformed, they should be given identification, and they should stop this situation where they will block the road, bring somebody, if they say with dread here, you are an armed robber. They say with tattoo, you are an armed robber. They see you with a slick phone in your hand. They say you cannot carry a slick phone. They will ask you to come and give them the password of your phone so they can go through your phone. It is shameful, Mr. President. I am supporting this motion wholeheartedly, and by this I am calling the IG to find a way through which SARS can be reformed.
so that it can serve Nigerian citizens. Thank you, Mr. President.
On that perspective, because we must be reminded of the provisions of our Constitution, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Mr. President, Chapter 4 of our Constitution is very explicit on the issue of fundamental rights. Chapter 4 of our Constitution is very explicit on the issue of fundamental rights. Mr. President, if you have a cursory look at our Constitution, we have about 8 rights that are clearly stated. The first one is right to life, right to dignity of human person, the right to fair hearing, the right to private family life, right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, right to freedom of expression and the press, right to peaceful assembly and association, right to freedom of movement, right to acquire and own immovable property anywhere in Nigeria. These 8 rights, Mr. President, we are talking of the right to life. We know it too that it is the right of every Nigerian to have his right preserved, his life preserved. And if you look at that, the first right in our Constitution, of course, in that chapter. And the only reason why somebody's life must be taken must be as a result of adjudication by a court of competent jurisdiction. Anything different from that is a violation of the provision of this Constitution. Mr. President, oftentimes in this country, even agencies of government that are established, we have seen it that people have violated the rights of Nigerians. When, of course, you violate the right to life, when a court of competent jurisdiction has not so adjudicated, it is that you call it extrajudicial killing, which, of course, is a violation. We have a judicial system. We have our justice system. We have our codes, both penal and criminal codes. And we expect that those who violate these codes must be brought to book. Mr. President, oftentimes, if you remember in the 8th Senate, we too tried to do amendment to the FCC Act. And the area of it that was more meaningful was the violation of fundamental rights, where people are arrested and incarcerated, when, of course, issues have not been fully investigated, when, of course, properties are forfeited, when, of course, a court of competent jurisdiction has not adjudicated on the matter. All these things are occurrences happening in our country today. And I believe they are very serious issues. All throughout last week, my phone was inundated with calls. This issue of federal, SARS. Every time now you see them, I call them urban terrorists. You see them, they are done in attires that you can best describe, for criminals. So it is not just happening. And I thank Senator Oluremi Tinubu, who has brought this to the fore. Some of us thought of it that once we resume this week, we're going to bring up this matter. It's now an issue of national disgrace. And a body like this, a distinguished Senate, this chamber, we must say to them very clearly that they are violating the laws. And when there are serious reprisals that are meted out on these violators, I think it will serve as a deterrent. Mr. President, only last week, Senator Otazi came in here and mentioned how a young girl who had just finished her youth service was killed in Abuja. And we have been seeing pockets of all these type of ugly occurrences across the country. We'll come in here, we'll talk about it. Nobody avails us of the serious consequences that should be meted out to these people. But I think for once, this motion must attract very serious resolution. That anybody that commits the crime, that of course takes the life of another Nigerian, we know what the law says. You too should lose your life. If we are able to take the law to a logical conclusion, then of course we have started on the journey of ensuring that our society get better. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Minority Leader, Minority Whip, sorry.
Mr. President, just like my distinguished colleague has mentioned, only last week Senator Utazi brought a motion here where one of my constituents called Ifoma was murdered by the SARS that they went to her house and they went to the house where they were looking for the either fiancé or boyfriend. They didn't find him, and then they decided to pick her. And the next thing was that it was alleged that she was either raped or beaten, and that she died. Though the Commissioner of Police, FCT, promised and said there will be a post-mortem where investigations will be carried out and those who are liable will be prosecuted. But Mr. President, that is not just it. These people go about maiming people, killing people for no just reason. Once they suspect somebody, they just chase and then they kill the people. It is unfortunate that that is happening. The police is supposed to be our friends, not people who will kill people. But then, one other thing that is heartwarming is the fact that the new Police Act have it in, I think, Chapter 5 or so of the Police Act, where they say you go to arrest if you do not find somebody, you don't go and arrest anybody in place of somebody. You see these SARS people, just like it has been said, with t-shirts and jeans. Sometimes, if they stop you, you even become apprehensive because you wonder if it is armed robbers on the streets that want to come and either attack you or something. Mr. President, the Abba Kyari group has done well and have been able to show commitment and loyalty. But all the others, Your Excellency, I must say, have lived short of the expectation of the work that they are supposed to do. And Mr. President, though recently we saw the IGP come out to give instructional journal on how they should behave and how they should act, but that is not, it does not stop there. What they are supposed to do is to ensure strict compliance and monitoring. Otherwise, we'll continue to lose our promising youth, people who are contributing meaningfully to this society for just no cause, for the mode of their dressing, or for the fact that there are 3 or 4 of them in a vehicle, and then they stop them, or they see something with them that they even like, and they stop them, and before you know it, they are killing somebody or maiming them. So, Mr. President, this motion, I support it totally, and with the caveat that the committee should live up to their expectation by ensuring that they carry out their oversight to ensure that the manual that the IGP has brought in and what they need to do with the act so that they can ensure compliance and ensure that the lives of citizens are saved rather than wasted. Thank you, Mr. President.
Before the issue of observance of rights of citizens, already these are rights that are not only fundamental but are universal. And the Constitution of Nigeria has codified these rights in Chapter 4. Mr. President, when the right of a citizen to life has been violated, all other rights they can no longer be of use to one that has lost his life. Because rights only accrue to the living and not to the dead. Any action, therefore, that erodes and deprives citizens of their rights to life offends not only the nation but humanity at large. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the action by the FSARS is not only at the national level but is compounding the negative rating of Nigeria globally. And to that extent, the call for the reform of the FSARS by the IGP and the Nigerian police cannot be overemphasized. The national outcry and the swift response of the IGP should go further to instill discipline and ensure adherence to the rules of engagement by all men and officers of the police force. Mr. President, Nigerians are already under heavy burden of economic strangulation And the least they expect is to have the Nigerian security agencies, and particularly the police, to turn against them. Already, Nigerians are suffering from insurgency, from banditry, from kidnapping, and the police, who are expected to secure citizens, should not turn around to be a problem to citizens. I therefore support all the prayers that have been canvassed by the mover of this motion and all the other points that have been raised by my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues.
Distinguished colleagues, we go to the prayers of the motion, please. Prayer 1. Mandate the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters to investigate human rights abuses by Nigerian security agencies. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the various security agencies to establish hotlines to enable Nigerians to report abuses by their agents. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Urge the various security agencies to establish a special bureau unit that monitors the conduct of its officers, arrests and charges erring ones. Arrests and charges erring ones. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Mandate the committees on police affairs and judiciary and human rights to investigate allegations of extrajudicial executions and make recommendations for reparation. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5. Mandate the Committee on Police Affairs to organize a stakeholders meeting to investigate implementation of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund Act 2019. Those in favor of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 6. Commend the Inspector General of Police for swift response and urge him to review the objectives behind the establishment of the tactical squads with a view to permanently restricting their interference in daily activities of Nigerians. Those in favor of prayer 6 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Well, distinguished colleagues, thank you very much for the various interventions. I know many senators would have loved to contribute to this debate, because this is something that concerns our day-to-day lives, and it's something that is all over the country. I think that this is a situation that should be properly investigated. The recent incidents should not be just swept under the carpet. Those involved in the recent incidents should be arrested and prosecuted. There are good people in all the security agencies, just like there are bad people. Probably scrapping of agencies when you have mistakes may not be the solution. But I think rule of law should be the guiding principle. You do the wrong thing, you face the consequences. Like some of us indicated, there are good elements in SARS, and they have been doing a very wonderful job. So if you scrap SARS, for example, you lose the chance of getting those that are doing well to continue to do well. But anybody in SARS, or indeed in any arm of the security agencies, that commits excesses should be prosecuted. The law should take its course, full course. It's not enough to dismiss somebody from service. What does the law say if he kills someone? This is not acceptable. In fact, it makes Nigeria, like some of our colleagues have said during their contributions, a laughing stock. Senator Ishaku Abo was citing the case of Black Lives Matter in America. Here in Nigeria, now it will be Nigerians' life matter. But we have the power, we have the authority, we have the jurisdiction and mandate to continuously review the laws governing the operations or the establishment of these agencies where we are not happy because Nigerians suffer unduly. We should be able to look at the law establishing any agency and find a way of making it difficult for somebody to go into infractions. But for what happened recently, those involved must be arrested, must be prosecuted, and Nigerians need to know what happens. It's not enough to just say stop or suspension of activities of SARS. What happened to those that have killed Nigerians, innocent Nigerians, like Senator Alaru said? If someone is killed by the law, that is understandable. But someone who is supposed to protect a Nigerian kills a Nigerian unduly, without any due course or due process. I don't know what the law provides. Probably he loses his life too. And that is what we expect to see and happen. So our committees on judiciary and the police, you have been given responsibilities here. We want to hear from you what happens to those that have killed innocent Nigerians recently and other incidences that happened in the past. Senator Olurimi Tinubu, thank you very much for bringing this very important motion. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President,